Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. How you doing? I hope you're in good shape, healthy, safe. Remember, this is a letter Nichiren wrote to an aging woman. And so he's going to make some statements in here to indicate to her how the Daimoku works and why it's so significant, right? What was the title? The Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra? Yeah, the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. So, he's going to make a statement here, but I don't want you to misunderstand. Again, keep in mind the purpose of this letter. And he poses a question. What passages of proof, in other words, from what text of Shakyamuni, can you cite to show that one should chant only the Daimoku? Does that mean it's unnecessary to recite Gongyo? To read, copy, recite, right? That's still all of there. But he's talking to this woman, and he's saying, as it stands against all other practices, why is the Daimoku the most significant? The only one you should be practicing. He's really talking about the Lotus Sutra as a whole. But the question is stated very simply, where can you cite to show that one should only chant the Daimoku? Answer. The 8th volume of the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law states that one who accepts and upholds the mere name of the Lotus Sutra, the Myoho Renge Kyo, will enjoy immeasurable good fortune. So, in Shakyamuni's own words, this sutra, what I'm teaching in this sutra, he's saying, this is the self-realization sutra. This is the way all beings can access their innate Buddha mind, their Gohonzon mind, yeah? Shakyamuni would say Buddha mind. Nichiren is simply identifying that there's a transition between samsaric thinking and Buddha thinking, and he labels it Gohonzon because its goal being an objective to open this treasure tower, Honzon, is in the mind, affords us the Buddha experience. Right? He's saying the same thing. Just don't get confused by the labels, yeah? The Lotus Sutra of the correct law says that if one hears this sutra and proclaims it and embraces its title, one will enjoy merit beyond measure, or rewards, right? But rewards, merit is better because that's more about our life experience. Rewards, maybe I shouldn't use that word so much because there's a charisma attached to rewards, like it's something you get in the mail. It's a special Amazon package. No. And the supplemented Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law says that one who accepts and upholds the name of the Lotus Sutra will enjoy immeasurable good fortune. In other words, your life condition will raise, yeah? These statements indicate that the good fortune one receives from simply chanting the Daimoku is beyond measure. So, without going into the technicalities of invoking an already extant state of enlightenment, which is what we do when we chant the Daimoku, he's putting it in very simple terms because the question was posed, from where do you get this idea? Did you just pull it out of your butt? Or does it come from Shakyamuni himself? To accept, uphold, read, recite, take delight in, and protect all the 8 volumes and 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra is called the comprehensive practice. So you hear that, right? So this includes Gongyo, recitation. Taking delight in is something I've addressed in videos. You can look them up, where I urge you to savor your practice. Don't be in a rush with it, right? There are camps of people out there who think if I can just chant, 10,000 more daimoku in 10 minutes, I'll be closer to my enlightenment. No. Really feel, participate, penetrate into your own Gohonzon mind. Namu Myo, right? Savor it. Enjoy it. Feel it. Developing your Buddha-ness. Much more meaningful. Don't get me wrong. If you can do that 10,000 times a minute, more power to you. I wish I could do that. But wishing it doesn't make it so. To accept, uphold, and protect the expedient means chapter and the lifespan chapter is called the abbreviated practice. So when we do Gongyo, those are the only 2 chapters we really focus in on, isn't it? That's humbling. That means for all our efforts, morning and evening, when we do Gongyo and we recite the Hoben and the Juro chapter, or the expedient means in the lifespan chapter, it's an abbreviated practice. That means every now and again, maybe on a holiday, maybe when you find yourself with, maybe make it a special day. Maybe it's on your birthday. Pick a day. Maybe it's once a month. Read the entire Lotus Sutra. The whole thing. I'm not saying you have to repeat it like they did in Nichiren's day all day long, but read through the whole thing. Maybe it's a weekend, a Memorial Day weekend. What a glorious way to spend that holiday, honoring life. So chant, and rather than Gongyo as usual, make your Gongyo reading for half hour, an hour, however, I don't know how fast a reader you are. Read as much of the Lotus Sutra from the beginning to wherever you get, and then the next day or that evening, continue until you read the entire sutra. That would be the comprehensive practice. And then go back into your regular daily expedient means lifespan chapter, right? Nichiren has guided us that way anyway, so it's not like you're cheaping out. And simply to chant one 4-phrase verse or the daimoku and to protect those who do so is called the essential practice. So if you can do nothing else, if you can't find the time, make the time. If you find your day is so barraged by things to do, at very least, chant the daimoku. It's essential practice. Hence, among these 3 kinds of practice, comprehensive, abbreviated, and essential, the daimoku is defined as the essential practice. So if it's the essential practice, how could the benefits be any less? The others provide you maybe greater context, solidity. I'm a big proponent of that because that's what builds our confidence, yeah? And just knowing how to chant and offering daimoku as much as you can every day is very empowering. But in the context of the greater understanding of the teaching, every one of those daimoku is more convincing to ourselves. It builds our resolve, our confidence. So it's important to partake into the larger context of the practice whenever we can. Make sense? Question. How great are the rewards contained within the 5 characters of Myo and Kyo? Well, how often has Nichiren talked about this? But, okay. In the context, again, of this letter, he wants this woman to understand the profundity of this teaching, yeah? So, his answer. The great ocean contains all the numerous rivers that flow into it. The great earth contains all sentient and insentient beings. The wish-granting jewel is capable of showering down innumerable treasures, and the skies and space-born king Brahma rules over all the threefold world. The 5 characters of Myo and Kyo are comparable to these. All beings of the 9 worlds, as well as those of the world of Buddhahood, are contained within them. And since all beings of the 10 worlds are contained within them, so are their environments. Right? Again, this is the shorthand for the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, isn't it? But conceiving of 10 worlds or realms as that immediate mental conditioning context that we're constantly sifting through every single moment, it's a little easier to kind of fathom. Something is tickling my nose. Apologies. Anyway, it's a little easier to grasp functionally in our samsaric minds, right? But understand that every time he brings that up, he's talking about the greater enlightenment that Tendai opened up, about 3,000 realms, a number that is unreasonable to try to fathom, because that's the point. The illusion of control that our samsaric mind has is kind of laughable. And that's what we allow to run our lives. That's why the Paramita Sutra says, you want to turn that around. You want to develop your clear mind of understanding and let that guide your life. Namo Myo and Kyo. Let us first examine the fact that the 5 characters, Myo, Ren, Ge, and Kyo, contain within them all the teachings. So once again, Nichiren is going to take this apart to demonstrate that these aren't magic words or magic characters. They are symbolic placeholders of a much greater breadth of self-realization, of understanding life, the entirety, the engine of life, yes? How we experience karma. Karma's karma. It's like fire is fire. Yes, there are different types. There are chemical fire, wood fire, but just fire. How does it harm you? Do you breathe in its smoke? Do you get harmed? Do you have asthma? Your particular karma? Makeup? Is it affected differently than so-and-so putting their hand in the fire? Everyone's going to experience and feel the influence of that fire in their own particular way. Yes? The single character Kyo, or Sutra, is the king of all sutras, and all the other sutras are encompassed by it. I just did a video about why so many Buddhisms. Because we all have that question from time to time. Why am I a Nichiren doctrine? Why do I follow Bodhisattva Nichiren rather than being a that Buddhist or that Buddhist, right? And so what Nichiren is saying is that all of Shakyamuni's teachings eventually, ultimately take us to this. All of them are included. They don't all hold the same place, although many traditions have been created around different steps, right? It's like numerology has its own way of viewing numbers, but that in no way makes them competitive with calculus or even algebra, a way of understanding numbers that's vastly more powerful and accurate and complete. Although numerologists might want to argue, their arguments would fall hollow, right? And if you don't like that example, well, make one of your own. So, the single character Kyo or sutra means it's the king of all the sutras and the others are encompassed by it. The Buddha appeared in the world and over a period of 50 years preached 80,000 sacred teachings, a whole bunch of sermons he delivered, yeah? At that time, the lifespan of a human being is said to have been 100 years. Okay? The Buddha passed away in the middle of the night on the 15th day of the second month of the year with the cyclical sign Mizunoe Saru. Thereafter, during some 90 days of summer, or the period from the 8th day of the 4th month until the 15th day of the 7th month of the same year, 1,000 arhats gathered at the compilation hall and set down all the sutras. Now, you may have read some different accounts on that. But as Nichiren is identifying it, why would he lie, right? He's a scholar, spent his whole life studying from temple to temple. Why would he just say this out of midair? So 100 days, basically, after Shakyamuni went extinct, these great scholars of his sermons took these verbal teachings and transcribed them. After that, during the 1,000 years of the former day of the law, all these various sutras spread throughout the 5 regions of India. And we've already talked about the Gandhara area of northeast India that's now shared by 4 or 5 different countries, I think. And the transcriptions that were being made to store in great clay jars in the earth to make sure the teachings would not be lost. This is always a fear, right? Even Shakyamuni talks about that when he talks about our modern age and how the Lotus Sutra, the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, were in danger of being lost forever, and that it would require some people of exceptional dedication to re-enliven the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. Well, here we are. It was only in the 15th year of the middle day of the law, 1,015 years after the Buddha's extinction, that Buddhist sutras were first introduced to China. This was in the year with the cyclical sign of Hinoto-U, the 10th year of the Yungping era, Common Era 67, in the reign of Emperor Ming of the latter Han dynasty, from that time until the year of the cyclical sign Kanoe-Uma, the 18th year of the Kai-Yuan era, in 730 Common Era, so almost 700 years. In the reign of Emperor Tsutsung of the Tang dynasty, a total of 176 translators went over to to China, taking with them 1,076 sutras, works on discipline, and treatises comprising 5,048 volumes contained in 480 scroll cases. All of these sacred writings are followers of the single character Kyo of the Lotus Sutra. Gives you a bit of an idea of what you're passing through your lips when you're chanting. It's massive. Among the sutras that the Buddha preached during the more than 40 years before he expounded the Lotus Sutra, there is one called the Great and Vast Buddha Flower Garland Sutra. This sutra is preserved in the Dragon King's palace in three versions. The first version contains as many chapters as the dust particles of 10 major world systems. So now we're not talking about an actual document, right? We're talking about the breadth of those teachings. Right, the Dragon King's palace is the repository of all this Buddhist knowledge. Kind of like we'd see the cloud today, but I don't want to confuse things, so I think I just did. But anyway. The second version contains 498,800 verses. And the third version contains 100,000 verses in 48 chapters. Outside of these three versions, only the smaller texts, such as the 8-volume and 60-volume versions, are preserved in China and Japan. In addition, there are the Hinayana Agama Sutras and various Mahayana Sutras of the correct and equal and the wisdom periods. Among the latter, the Sanskrit text of the Mahavajrayana Sutra devotes a total of 3,500 verses simply to the explanation of the 5 characters of the mantra Avarahaka. To say nothing of the countless verses it uses to describe the seeds, the august forms, and samayas of the various honored ones. In China, however, the text exists in a mere 6 or 7 volume form. The Nirvana Sutra, which the Buddha preached in the Sal Grove on his last day, is preserved in China in a version that is only 40 volumes long, though in this case, too, the Sanskrit versions of the text have many more volumes. All these various sutras are followers of the Lotus Sutra, the most profound teaching of the thus come one, Shakyamuni. In addition, all the sutras expounded by the 7 Buddhas of the past, the 1,000 Buddhas, or the Buddhas of countless kalpas ago, as well as those expounded by the Buddhas presently living in the 10 directions, are followers of the single character Kyo of the Lotus Sutra. Starting to get the picture? Nietzsche is just trying to get this woman to raise her confidence, to raise her depth of appreciation and resolve and honor, understanding the power she has in the invocation, getting all of her consciousnesses in line to attain enlightenment without omission. Thus, in the Medicine King chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha addresses Bodhisattva constellation King Flower, saying that just as the ocean is foremost among all the rivers, streams, and other bodies of water, just as Mount Sumeru is foremost among all the mountains, and just as the moon is foremost among the skies and spaceborne bodies to us here on earth, so the Lotus Sutra is likewise among all the sutras. The great teacher Miao Lo says in his commentary that the Lotus Sutra is, quote, foremost among all the sutras preached in the past, now being preached, or to be preached in the future, end quote. Right? He's quoting Shakyamuni. Within this single character, Kyo, keep in mind that Nichiren is focused in on one character. are contained all the sutras in the worlds throughout the 10 directions. It is like the wish-granting jewel that contains within it all manner of treasures, or the vastness of space that encompasses all phenomena. Boom! Did you just hear that? How often have you heard me talk about we are everything, and everything is expressing itself through our mind? Our experience of the universe is the universe. You think I'm whack? Listen to what he just said. This simple character, Kyo, the container of knowing. Okay? It is the vastness of space that encompasses all phenomena. Is that not the universe? Yeah? And because this single character, Kyo, of Myo Ren Ge Kyo, is the supreme achievement of Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime of teaching, the other 4 characters, Myo, Ren Ge, likewise surpass all the other 80,000 doctrines that the Buddha taught. Right? I'm going to repeat myself here, but remember Myo, the characters we focus on in our scroll to achieve that mandala transmission through our Gohonzon gateway to Buddhahood. Myo and Ho, the potential instantiating, they occur within Kyo. And they are Kyo. And our perception of that, I get it, Ren Ge. Myo-ho, potential instantiation, is all of everything, is me. Ren Ge, we invoke our enlightenment. That's it. How amazing is that? Coming now to the character Myo. The Lotus Sutra says, quote, "This sutra opens the gate of expedient means and shows the form of true reality." Potential. The great teacher Chang'an states, Myo means to reveal the depths of the secret storehouse. Okay, fanciful words, easy to get hung up in those words. But you get the meaning? The great teacher Miao Lo says of this, to reveal means to open. Open, reveal, Myo, potential, on the verge of, being, instantiating. Hence, the character Myo means to open. If there is a storehouse full of treasures but no key, then it cannot be opened. And if it cannot be opened, then the treasures inside cannot be seen. The Buddha preached the Flower Garland Sutra, but he did not therein expound the key to open this sutra. Likewise, in the more than 40 years that followed, he preached the sutras of the Agama, the correct and equal, the wisdom periods, as well as the meditation sutra, but he did not reveal their meaning. He was still training people to get there. Although, as I spoke in the other video on the why so many Buddhisms, huge traditions began and transmitted over centuries based on those early teachings, but they're incomplete. They become fetishized. How incredibly sad. Their doors remain closed, and therefore no one could understand these sutras. Even though people thought they understood, their understanding was in fact distorted. Bingo. Not because they're bad people. They didn't have the capacity or the wisdom to see where this was headed. They stopped short of the goal without even knowing that that's what they were doing, yeah? But then the Buddha preached the Lotus Sutra, and in this way opened the storehouses of the sutras. And for the first time in more than 40 years, all the people of the 9 worlds were able to view the treasures that lay within. To give an analogy, even though there are people and animals, plants and trees on the earth, without the light of the sun or moon, even those with good eyes cannot make out their shapes and colors. It is when the sun or moon rises that one can discern for the first time what these things really look like. The sutras that preceded the Lotus Sutra were shrouded in the darkness of a long night, and the essential and theoretical teachings of the Lotus Sutra were like the sun and moon. Now you get why we're doing this. Now you'll understand, you'll be able to, for yourself, Ren and Ge, right? Among the bodhisattvas with their 2 good eyes, the cross-eyed people of the 2 vehicles, ordinary people with their blind eyes, or ichantikas who have been blind since birth, there were none who could make out the true color or shape of things by means of the earlier sutras. They just couldn't get there. They were held up in their own understanding of the path toward, without understanding where they were going. But when the Lotus Sutra was preached and the moon of the theoretical teaching came forth, first the bodhisattvas with their 2 good eyes gained enlightenment. Oh, right? And then the cross-eyed people with the 2 vehicles, the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, yeah? Or Hinayanists. Next, the blind eyes of ordinary people were opened, and then even the ichantikas, people of incorrigible disbelief, just thought, oh, that's a fad, that'll never amount to anything, who had been blind from birth, were able to establish a relationship with the Lotus Sutra that assured them that their eyes would open one day. All this was due entirely to the virtue of the single character Myo. The potential for enlightenment is always there. If it were not, no one could attain it. Myo. Instantiating it, Ho. Myo Ho. There are 2 Myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand, principles expounded in the Lotus Sutra. One in the first 14 chapters, which constitute the theoretical teaching, and one in the latter 14 chapters, which constitute the essential teaching. From another point of view, there are 20 wonderful and difficult to understand principles, 10 in the theoretical and 10 in the essential, or there are 60 wonderful and difficult to understand principles, 30 in the theoretical and 30 in the essential. From yet another point of view, 40 in each half of the Lotus Sutra. By adding these to the 40 wonderful and difficult to understand principles concerning the observation of the mind, the single character Myo will be found to contain fully 120 Myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand principles. So, Buddhist math, yeah? He's just expounding on the preoccupations of the day in medieval Japan, on all of the various facets of the mind. So still this expedient means exists, yeah? One fundamental Myo, or wonderful and difficult to understand principle, underlies every one of the 69,384 characters of the Lotus Sutra. Hence, the Lotus Sutra comprises a total of 69,384 wonderful and difficult to understand principles. You have to remember the Lotus Sutra was something hand copied in characters that were an amalgam of ancient Chinese and kanji and so forth, personalized scripts, but hand copied. I mean, there was no, you didn't print it out of your laser printer, yeah? So each and every character, in other words, is imbued with Kyo, with Myo, with the potential expressed in a character of all of the concepts that it contains. 69,384 times, which is the direct connection you and I understand and Nichiren is making to the single character Myo. And the same is true of the rest of the 5 characters, yeah? This is what we're committing our sentient mind to instantiating. Namu. Ren and Ge. The entirety. Myo in India is rendered as Sad, like Sadharma Buddharika Sutra, right? And in China as Miao Lo. Myo meaning to be fully endowed. I'm Miao Lo. I'm not sure that's correct. I think in China it's, I'll have to, that might be a typo. Nonetheless, it's just another language for the same character. Myo means to be fully endowed. Isn't that interesting? Thinking of potential as being pregnant. Full of. Right? We talk about it. He's full of potential. She has so much potential. Right? Potential is potential. It's possibility. But we tend to think of it in terms of expanse. Because if there's potential, there must be expression. Whole. The two can't exist in our samsaric mind independently. So that's interesting. Myo means to be fully endowed, which in turn has the meaning of perfect and full. Because how could there be something imperfect in something that isn't something? And it's pregnant, it's full, it's just waiting to be expressed. How could there be imperfect expression? What's expressed can be judged as perfect or imperfect depending on what mind is experiencing it, but that doesn't imbue the expression of potential with good, bad, or otherwise. This is why I keep telling you, karma doesn't have that characteristic. How it's experienced, how it's inculcated into an amalgam, that's for the samsaric mind to judge or utilize. Each word and each character of the Lotus Sutra contains within it all of the 69,384 other, or all of the characters that compose the sutra. To illustrate, one drop of the great ocean contains within it the waters of all the various rivers that flow into it, right? And a single wish-granting jewel, though no bigger than a mustard seed, is capable of showering down the treasures that one could wish for with all the wish-granting jewels. This is folklore, yeah? But same analogy. To give another analogy, he says, plants and trees are withered and bare in autumn and winter, but when the sun of spring and summer shines on them, they put forth branches and leaves, and then flowers and fruit. Before the preaching of the Lotus Sutra, the people of the 9 worlds were like plants and trees in autumn and winter, but when with a single character of Myo, of the Lotus Sutra, shone on them, like the spring and summer sun, then the flower of the aspiration for enlightenment blossomed, and the fruit of Buddhahood, or rebirth in the Pure Land, emerged. Rebirth in the Pure Land. That language is very confusing to people who don't know. First of all, that's a translation. And secondly, that rebirth is a moment-to-moment thing. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. So when we invoke our Gohonzon mind to experience Buddhahood, we are now in Buddhahood. It's instant. Yeah? Moment into the next, momentum. And that's what he's saying. That's when the Buddha land emerges. Where does it emerge? Does it come out of the ground? No, it comes out of our mind. It's a re-evaluation, a re-experiencing of the exact same world, things, environment that is now unclouded by false identification. Yeah? All right, that's going to be it for today. Pretty cool sutra. I know I say that along, but it's pretty amazing. Thank you for reading along with me or listening. As always, use the comments constructively, please. Email me questions you might be struggling with or suggestions. I'm always open. Thank you for your practice. It's an amazing thing. Always really remind yourself of how not only precious this practice is, but how precious your practice is, your life is. You're amazing. Chant and be amazed at your own living, being. So again, gratitude. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help expand the Sangha. Use YouTube's algorithms to help reach others. It's a bodhisattva act. Patrons, I say it all the time. Whether you're buying ebooks or print books or mandalas, or you're sending regular donations through PayPal or patreon.com/TLK, thank you so much. It's invaluable. It's so necessary to keep this endeavor going. And in that, I'll let you go. Take care of your health, please. Be kind. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay? Bye for now.